Sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich and other Ukrainian peace negotiators are reportedly victims of a suspected poisoning attack by Russian agents. The Chelsea FC owner, who's currently selling the club, has been assisting with peace talks between Ukraine and Moscow and has been travelling between the nations since the start of the war. He and other peace negotiators reportedly experienced symptoms of chemical poisoning last month after a meeting in Kiev. All experienced red eyes, painful and constant tears and peeling skin on their hands and faces. It's believed the attacks were carried out by Moscow, who want to sabotage efforts to end the war. Western allies are refusing Russia's President Vladimir Putin's threat to cancel gas contracts if they are not paid in the Russian ruble. Moscow has signed a decree stating buyers must open ruble accounts in Russian banks from today. The demand is being seen as an attempt to boost the ruble, which has been hit hard by Western sanctions over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The UK, France and Germany refuted these demands, insisting they will continue to pay for Russian gas with euros and dollars. In breaking news, a 6-year-old boy who went missing in the southern Perth suburb of Burragoon yesterday afternoon has since passed away. Joey was found injured in a backyard of a property several streets away from where he was last seen. He was taken to Fiona Stanley Hospital by ambulance in a critical condition but later died. An investigation into his disappearance is underway. The actor Will Smith has been captured dancing off his Oscar blues as the Academy Awards hosted a series of after-parties in Los Angeles. The actor, who took out the prize for his role in The King Richard, stunned the world when he stormed on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock after he made comments about his wife's hair condition. Smith became emotional about his incident during the acceptance speech but was later seen unpleased while celebrating the win. The Academy tweeted shortly after, saying it does not condone violence of any form. The Solomon Islands opposition leader says he's extremely disappointed in Australia after his warnings of a potential military pact with Beijing were ignored by officials. Matthew Whale, who leads the Democratic Party, says he warned the Australian High Commissioner in August last year that China would likely establish a military presence on the Solomon Islands. News of a draft agreement between China and the Solomon Islands is causing growing concern across the region, stirring fears Beijing could soon also gain a foothold in Papua New Guinea. Mr. Whale is urging the Australian government to strengthen its existing bilateral security agreement with the nation to help fend off China. President Biden has dismissed suggestions that he further escalated tensions with Russia when he said Putin should be removed during a speech in Poland. It's as he unveiled a new minimum tax targeting billionaires in his $5.8 trillion budget request to Congress. Our Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen filed this report from the White House.
World leaders, including UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson as well as French President Emmanuel Macron, have described the comment from President Biden that Vladimir Putin should be removed as unhelpful. The backlash has been severe, with Russia seizing on the comments for its own propaganda. The president responding in a press conference.
I'm not walking anything back. The fact of the matter is I was expressing the moral outrage I felt. I want to make it clear. I wasn't then, nor am I now, articulating a policy change.
President Biden has released his budget request with money allocated for the military and policing. But unlike the Australian budget, the power to enact the president's budget lies with Congress, which will almost certainly ignore his requests. The least popular aspect will be his proposal to tax billionaires a minimum of 20%. While there'd likely be some support to target their income, Biden's proposal would introduce a tax on unrealised capital gains. That includes assets like stock or property, which right now can't be taxed unless they're sold and there's actually been a profit realised from the asset. The proposal says the 20% minimum tax would only apply to US households worth more than $100 million, which right now is about 0.01% of all Americans. The White House estimates half of the revenue generated by the tax would come from 700 billionaires and would reduce the deficit in the US budget by $360 billion. While the budget proposal does promise to reduce the $3 trillion US budget deficit, that's mostly through the levying of this billionaires tax, which right now remains unpopular with both Republicans and moderate Democrats.
Well, the Hollywood star Bruce Willis has announced that he will be stepping away from acting after being diagnosed with aphasia. It's an illness which has affected his cognitive ability. Aphasia can cause difficulties with language and speech, as well as reading, listening and writing. In a statement on Instagram, his former wife Demi Moore thanked fans for their support, saying they would continue to live it up, as he always had. Bruce Willis rose to fame in the 1980s in his role as John McClane in the Die Hard series and starring opposite Sybil Shepherd in the series Moonlighting. The Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins had opioids, marijuana and other drugs in his system at the time of his death. A toxicology report revealed the presence of at least 10 narcotics in the drummer's body. However, it is uncertain whether the drugs played a factor in his death. The Grammy Award-winning band was on tour in Bogota when the 50-year-old experienced cardiac arrest. Authorities were unable to revive him. The Foo Fighters cancelled their remaining South American tour dates as tributes are shared by friends and fans from right around the world. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has given a powerful address to Australia's Parliament, thanking Australians for our weapons and our aid. The under-siege leader called on the world to do more to assist and asked for our government to send combat vehicles.
There was a flicker of static as his face appeared on the screen. A president-turned-hero received by a parliament which rose as one in a sign of joint admiration. Ukraine's leader telling a rare joint sitting.
The people of Australia, the distance between our countries, as you said, is big.
But warning, while distance doesn't divide us, neither does it protect us.
Whatever is happening in our region because of the Russian aggression, what is destroying the lives of people, has become a real threat to your country and to your people as well, because this is the nature of the evil. It can instantly cross any distance.
In a 16-minute address, Volodymyr Zelensky declared the worst of the 20th century was being revisited, calling for help and tougher sanctions to crush a dictator whose nuclear power endangers the world and emboldens others.
The most terrible thing, if we don't stop Russia now, if we don't hold Russia accountable, then some other countries of the world who are looking forward to the similar war against their neighbours will decide that such things are possible for them as well.
Australia acting again on Thursday, imposing an additional 35% tariff on all imports from Russia, as the president sympathised with families still grieving over the downing of MH17 by Russian-backed separatists.
If the world had punished Russia in 2014 for what it did, there wouldn't be any of these terror of invasion in Ukraine in 2022.
Praise from our leaders.
We welcome you, Mr. President, as a lion of democracy. We stand with you, Mr. President, and we do not stand with the war criminal of Moscow.
Putin's attempt to divide the West has drawn us closer together.
Russian forces have bombed areas surrounding the Ukrainian capital hours after pledging to scale back operations in the area. The attacks have dampened optimism about the chances of a diplomatic solution to the conflict, as Ukraine claims it would be prepared to drop its NATO bid and become neutral. Moscow officials say they welcome the announcements by Kiev, but have not scaled down their operations, continuing to hit civilian targets in key cities. United Nations estimates at least 1,100 Ukrainian civilians have been killed so far since the invasion began. President Volodymyr Zelensky says in an address to Norway's parliament that no targets are off limits to Russian forces.
Russian missiles and air bombs are hitting our cities and civilian infrastructure on the daily basis, every night. For the Russian forces, there are no prohibited targets. They attack everything.
A highly anticipated change of command ceremony between the US and Russia has taken place on the International Space Station. Despite mounting tensions between the two nations, NASA has repeatedly reaffirmed that it continues to work closely with Russian space agency Roscosmos.
Space landings are always tense.
Touchdown.
An explosion cushions the Soyuz capsule's impact after falling from 250 miles up. But if you were looking for evidence of the collapse of US-Russian relations over Ukraine, you weren't going to find it in this scene. US astronaut Mark van der Heij, all smiles after nearly a year in space with Russian colleagues. even a welcome message from Russian mission control near Moscow. After the invasion, eyes turned upward to the International Space Station to see how the US, Russian and German crew were coping with the crisis. Publicly, at least, it was beneath them.
People have problem on Earth, on orbit. We are like, we are one crew, and I think ISS is like symbol of the friendship and cooperations, and like symbol of future of exploration of space.
The arrival of a Russian replacement crew in what appeared to be Ukrainian colours caused a flurry of speculation, but quickly was dismissed by Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, as total coincidence.